When Mark Turner looked back on the last 2 years of his marriage, he realized there had always been small cracks in the foundation. He just hadn't wanted to see them. Mark was a 38-year-old architect, steady and practical, who had built his life on discipline and hard work. His wife, Emily, 36, was creative, charming, and endlessly full of energy. They had met in college, and for years their lives seemed like a dream, traveling together, building careers, buying a home in Seattle, and raising their daughter, Lily. But as the years went by, Emily began to crave something Mark didn't fully understand. While he was pouring late nights into projects, she began to feel invisible. And that invisibility slowly pushed her into choices that neither of them could have predicted. It began with something as innocent as an acting class. Emily had always been interested in theater but never pursued it seriously. When she signed up for a local improv group, Mark encouraged her. He thought it would be a good outlet for her creativity. She loved the stage, the costumes, the drama. But over time, the thrill of pretending became less about the performance and more about escaping the reality of her marriage. One evening, while rehearsing at the community theater, Emily met a man named Ryan Blake. He was 32, handsome, confident, and worked part-time as a drama coach while struggling to land roles in bigger productions. Emily was immediately drawn to him. He embodied the passion and intensity she felt was missing in her marriage. But Emily didn't want an affair in the conventional sense. She didn't want the shame of sneaking around. What she wanted was control, fantasy, and the illusion of passion without the permanence of commitment. And that's when she came up with an idea that would forever change her marriage. She hired Ryan, not as a lover, but as an actor. She asked him to play the role of her secret romantic partner. At first, Ryan thought it was a joke. But when Emily offered money, he agreed. To him, it was just another gig. Memorize lines, deliver passion, and leave emotions at the door. For Emily, though, it became much more. Ryan met Emily twice a week. They went on staged dates, coffee shops, walks in the park, rented hotel rooms where they never crossed the line into intimacy but played out romantic scripts Emily had written. She asked him to recite lines from her favorite movies, hold her hand like they were high school sweethearts, and act as though every word he said was wrapped in adoration. For weeks, Emily felt alive again. She convinced herself it wasn't cheating because it was acting. She told herself she wasn't betraying Mark, only indulging in a harmless escape. But deep down, she knew the truth was darker. She was paying someone to give her the emotions she should have been seeking from her husband. The facade couldn't last forever. One Friday night, Mark noticed something strange. Emily had told him she was going to a late rehearsal, but when he passed by the coffee shop on his way home, he saw her through the window. She wasn't surrounded by actors. She was sitting with a man, leaning close, laughing, her eyes filled with a glow he hadn't seen in years. Mark didn't confront her immediately. Instead, he followed them quietly, his heart pounding. He watched as they walked to the park and sat on a bench under the lamppost. He saw Ryan hold her hand, heard Emily's soft laugh, and watched her lean on his shoulder. It was all too much. His chest felt like it was collapsing. When Emily returned home later, Mark was waiting. He asked her calmly, "Who is he?" Emily froze. For a moment, she considered lying, but the truth tumbled out. She admitted everything, that Ryan was an actor she had hired, that it wasn't a real affair, that she just wanted to feel romance again. Her words only made it worse. Mark felt humiliated. Not only had his wife betrayed him emotionally, but she had turned love itself into a performance. Mark didn't sleep that night. He replayed every moment of their marriage in his mind, questioning everything. The next morning, he told Emily he needed space and left to stay at a friend's apartment. Emily was left alone in their house, consumed with regret. For the first time, she saw her actions clearly. She realized how deeply she had hurt the man who had always stood by her. The fantasy had crumbled, and now all that was left was a broken marriage. Mark spent weeks in silence, speaking only when necessary for their daughter. Emily tried everything to repair the damage. She ended things with Ryan, stopped attending the theater group, and began going to therapy. She wrote long letters to Mark, apologizing not only for the betrayal but for years of neglecting the bond they once shared. At first, Mark wanted nothing to do with her apologies. He considered divorce. He spoke to lawyers. He imagined raising Lily in 2 separate households. But in the quiet moments, he also remembered the Emily he had fallen in love with, the girl who used to sit beside him in the library, the woman who had held his hand through financial struggles, the mother who sang lullabies to their daughter. After 3 months apart, Mark agreed to attend a counseling session with Emily. It was tense, awkward, and painful. But slowly, through the process, they began to understand each other. Emily admitted that her choices had come from a place of selfishness and emotional immaturity. Mark admitted that he had become so consumed with work that he had failed to notice her loneliness. Healing wasn't immediate, trust had been shattered, and rebuilding it required time, patience, and effort from both sides. But little by little, they began to reconnect. Mark took Emily on small dates again. Emily supported Mark's career in ways she hadn't before. They made promises to communicate openly, no matter how uncomfortable the truth might be. Ryan eventually moved out of Seattle to pursue acting in Los Angeles. He remained just a ghost of a memory in their lives, a symbol of the damage deception could cause. Years later, when Mark looked back on that dark chapter, he realized it had been the breaking point that forced them to rebuild stronger. Betrayal had nearly destroyed them, but redemption had saved them. They weren't perfect, but they had learned that love wasn't about flawless romance, it was about resilience, honesty, and the willingness to choose each other again and again. Emily never forgot the pain she had caused. But she used it as fuel to become a better partner, a better mother, and a more honest version of herself. And Mark, though scarred, learned that forgiveness was not about erasing the past but about believing in the possibility of a future. Their story was shocking, heartbreaking, and messy. Yet it was also a reminder. Love tested by fire can either burn to ashes or emerge stronger than ever. For Mark and Emily, it was the latter.